Hey, what's up, guys? It's X Morgan with My Spiritual Life, and today I have with me Mama Joe.
Hi.
Has done several videos with me now, and I have them linked below. Today, I'm so excited because we are going to be talking about how to heal your past trauma and create a brighter future. Now, just a tiny bit of background about Mama Joe. Oops, that side is that he grew up evangelical Pentecostal. Is that how you, is that
Yes.
and had the gay demons were trying to get exorcised out of him. Crazy story. You can hear his full story below. Obviously, a lot of trauma involved growing up gay in an evangelical church. And so I'm really excited to hear more about his story of healing and moving past that and trying to find beauty in life despite just really difficult upbringing. Any other introduction for you?
No. I think you covered it.
Hell yeah. Okay,
Not
cool.
just evangelical though, evangelical in the South. Redneck
Important distinction.
evangelical,
Very important distinction. Well, thank you for everyone who is here. If you're watching, comment where you're watching from. Thanks for being here. And I want to say that it's Gail. Gail is one of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. I want to say that this topic is so tender to my heart and such a big deal to me because I feel like in this topic is kind of the key to just living your best life, right? Living your best life is not easy to figure out how to do that, right? How do you figure out what you want out of life? How do you figure out what you need? How do you figure out how to go for what you want? And I guess in my own life what I noticed was I didn't realize how much issues from my past were affecting my present until I finally started to work through them and make peace with them. And
Yeah.
then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like I've been holding myself back. I've been hiding myself. I've been sabotaging myself. I've been punishing myself all because of the really unhealthy things that I learned from my childhood. So, and I
Yeah.
know, Joe, you feel very similarly.
Oh
So I'm
yeah.
really excited to talk about this just because I wish I had learned so much of what I know now a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Because it has made my life isn't perfect, right? But it's made my life just so much more fulfilled and peaceful. And I don't feel like I'm spinning in my mess like I used to a lot. Excuse me. Anyway, so as a little brief introduction into this, why don't we talk about kind of what life looked like before we tried to confront our past and make peace with it?
Okay.
Because I want to paint a picture for people, kind of what that looks like. So tell me, what did your life kind of look like, the day to day and your emotions and how you were handling things? What did that look like before you were able to kind of process and make peace with all of this past trauma?
Mine was a lot of running. I never lived in the same city for more than 3 to 5 years.
Oh man.
Even when I lived in Los Angeles, I might have the same job, but I would live in the Valley for a while. I would live on the West Side for a while. I'd live in Hollywood a while. I'd live in Burbank a while. So I was always moving, reinventing myself, because I was so broken that I
Yeah.
couldn't possibly be honest with anybody.
And you didn't probably feel comfortable to put
Yeah.
roots down and to
Right.
really let people love you deeply, right?
Right.
Because that's just it's too scary, it's too difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
And when you're doing that, there's a lot of lying going on.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to move and reinvent yourself, because your lies start catching up to you. So you have to just abandon all of those people
Yes,
and
just
start
up and
over.
move.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Just pull up and
totally
move.
makes sense. That
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So tell me, like, how dealing with all of that, like, how did you feel about yourself and what was your outlook on life?
Wow, you're asking tough questions tonight.
Yeah.
It you know it was not a good place. It was sad, you
Yeah.
know, because I I lived most of my life under this guise of I'm simply not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not good enough for my job. I'm not good enough for my friends. I'm not good enough for my family. You know, so
Absolutely.
when that's the way you feel about yourself all the time, and you've been taught to feel that way about yourself, you know, it's just a really sad place to be. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
That is
sorry
so
that was
sad.
tough.
Oh, it is so sad. Well, I love the way you worded that. Like, I lived under the guise of I'm never good enough. That
Yeah,
like hits me hard. Like, that's so relatable to me. And just realizing how unfair it is to live with that kind of mentality, right?
yeah,
And how sad it is because it's not like you can ever be a perfect person, right? But
no,
but you sit around thinking like I'm never good enough, and then you just torture yourself and you never really make your life better because you feel too ashamed to even better your life, and it's just such a spiraling mess, and it's sad because it doesn't have to be that way,
no,
but that's just how we learned to cope and deal with life and to deal with our shame. And
yeah,
it's just so sad. And it's sad that there's so many people that feel that way and don't realize that there's a better way and that
yeah,
you can work your way out of that. That is,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And that starts with being honest with yourself. You know,
Yes.
you have to sit yourself down and tell yourself the truth about you.
Right. And what do you mean by that? Like the truth about you, like
Well, you
in
know,
what, like what?
uh, well, it's like, you know, not everything is the fault of an external force. You know, sometimes you're just a little bitch. You
Okay, so you have to
know,
take, yes, you have to
and you
take
have to own that.
responsibility.
Yeah,
You
you
have
have
to
to own
own
that.
it.
Yeah,
Oh, I
and
love
figure
that.
out, you know, why am I a little bitch sometimes? You know?
So Carl Jung was a popular psychologist, not psychologist, what do you call philosopher, I think. And he talked a lot about this idea of confronting your shadow, right?
Yeah.
We all have darkness in us and we need to confront it. And
Mhm.
like his way of approaching it, from my understanding, was you have to kind of integrate it, right?
Yeah.
Not just try to run away from it or hate that part of you, but to actually have compassion for that part of you and actually try to make good out of, like if your personality is you're kind of a bitch, like you can look on the bright side and be like, well, I'm not going to get pushed around, like, and you have to kind
Yeah.
of look at the bright side while also trying to mitigate it and bring it into more of like a balanced
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I love what you said though about the kind of the key, the first step, right, toward making your life better is you have to own up to the things that you're fucking up that are in your control, right?
Exactly.
And we are not good at that. We are not good at that as a
No.
species.
Yeah.
Um a lot of us just it feels too burdensome to acknowledge what we're doing wrong, and it's just easier to blame other people or other circumstances
Yeah.
for our life problems, right? But there's a balance that has to be had. It could be like, yeah, my mom, she did ABC and it affected me in that way and that's why I do this, but
Yeah.
she's not here anymore, she's not living
Exactly.
with me anymore, and so I can't keep blaming her. I have to take some accountability. And it's like it's a catch 22 because it's painful
Yeah.
to to sit there and be like, I fucked this up, but it's also really empowering because when you take that responsibility, suddenly you empower yourself to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once you're honest with yourself, once you're honest about just one thing, you can take steps to change that one thing. You
Yes.
know, I can be pretty quick to temper in certain situations because in that aspect I'm exactly like my mother. you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And you can't just always say, oh, I had terrible parents, oh, I grew up in a cult, you know.
Yeah, you can't use
It
it as
comes
an
down to you at
excuse.
some point, you know. And
Yes.
in
Yeah.
all of my efforts to be nothing like her, I turned into her, you know, in a lot of
Isn't
ways.
that wild?
Yeah,
We all do that though. And
yeah,
it's so ironic to me, like how much we can disdain a parent,
yeah,
and disdain the certain things that they do, and then we still go and do it, you
yeah,
know? And that just blows my mind, but, ultimately, I think that the reason we have the disdain when we see our parents doing those things is because we can see those attributes reflected in ourselves and we don't like it about ourselves, and so it's
yeah,
painful to see them do it. It's a projection, right? Um, yeah, but, like you said, if you can start to take responsibility for it and change it, then it can really empower you to actually start feeling a lot better about yourself.
yeah, yeah. Because if I can control that aspect of me that is my mother, then I'm not quite as ugly as she was.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I've made an improvement in the genealogical line. I've made a little improvement on her, you know.
Right, right, and I think that's all we can really expect of ourselves is
Yeah.
to do better than our parents before us.
And I know I've downed my mother a lot in all these videos, and I just want to. I know my mom loved me. I love her.
Yeah.
She just wasn't a great mom, you know.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
Right, absolutely, yeah, totally understandable, and, yeah, so I wanna paint a picture with my life, kind of how I was feeling. So before I
Okay.
kind of got onto this, like, self-improvement journey, kinda like self-love journey now. I use the word self-love. A lot of people use the word self-love nowadays, and I don't like the way that they use it because they'll
Yeah.
use it in context that to me, is, like, more self-abusive than self-loving.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, like, I love myself so much that I am gonna accept my body no matter what I look like, and I'm gonna eat whatever I feel like eating, and, like, I'm going to just indulge in every desire that I have, and I'm like, "That is not self-love." Like, eating ice cream all day long
No.
is not self-love. I don't care what you think, that is not self-love, you know what I mean? So, when I talk about self-love, what I mean is, like, an actual genuine care and concern for yourself,
Yeah.
and treating yourself with respect and kindness and trying to make sure that you get your needs met and taken care of,
It's kind of
and
self-parenting.
yes, yes. I love that term of self-parenting because let's see, in The Awakened Family, Dr. Shafali talks about how when you weren't parented well, your internal parent is exactly reflective of whatever your parent was doing that was so damaging to you. If they're overly critical, if
Yeah.
they're overly overbearing, if they're a tyrant, that's what the boss inside your brain has turned into, right? You can imagine that in your brain you
Yeah.
have like a boss and you have an employee, and that boss is that critical voice that's like trying to get you to do things and is very harsh and unforgiving. And
Yeah.
so what she talks about is learning to parent yourself like loving and in a loving, encouraging kind of way. And
Yeah.
that's what I've spent a lot of years trying to turn around is that voice in my head. So painting that picture for me when I was in my early 20s, I was just a ball of stress all the time. I was super stressed out, just on high alert anxiety, running around crazy all the time, and I kept myself really busy. Um, and I think there was a lot of reasons I kept myself really busy in part because I wanted to feel, like, important and like I was productive, because that kinda made me feel a little bit better about myself, kinda, like, put a little Band-Aid on my self-worth for a minute, like, when I felt like I was being productive.
Yeah.
And, I was so disorganized and wasn't able to take good of my mental health. And so everything was just kind of a mess and everything just made everything else a mess. So it's like my mental health isn't doing well. So I'm not cleaning as much as I should or cooking, so that I'm eating out a lot and then my mental health isn't good. And it's just like everything is just kind of a mess. And I remember like I would spend all day just like busy, and yet everything was still a mess because I
Yeah.
wasn't organized, right? And so it'd be like, oh, I'll spend a little time over here doing this, and I'll spend a little time over here doing this, and at the end of the day, the house is still a mess, and I'm still eating junk food,
And now I don't know where any of my stuff is.
Yeah, yeah.
Before
Yes.
getting on tonight, I was like, where did I put those earbuds? I know I put them someplace where I would remember,
Oh my God. I hate when I do that. I'm like, I remember I put them in that special place.
Yes, that I
And
would always
God damn
remember.
it, I don't know where that special place was. Oh, that is the worst. That is the worst. I get so frustrated with myself. Anyway, so that's kind of how things looked in my early 20s, and I started at that time I started going to therapy, and I started reading books a little bit more, and started kind of trying to understand myself and understand why I was so emotional all the time, why I was so burnt out all the time,
Yeah.
why I had so much shame. And as I started to kind of look into all those things and understand where I was coming from, it just totally changed everything because I I just saw how hard I was trying to earn love. I saw how hard I was trying to prove
Yeah.
myself to be worthy of the good things in my life. And I saw how ashamed I felt and how scared of what people thought of me I felt. And it really imploded when I left Mormonism
Yeah.
because I didn't realize how scared I was of what people thought of me until I wanted to leave Mormonism, because this was the test, right? Where everyone's going to be judging me, everyone's going to think I'm a bad person, everyone's
Yeah.
going to think that I am following Satan.
Yes.
And it was this right, it was this huge moment for me of like, I remember thinking to myself, I can't leave because I can't handle everyone's judgment of me. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to fake it. And then I thought to myself, no, now I know I have to leave. I
Yeah.
absolutely have to. And if I ever come back to church, it has to be because I want to and not because I need to prove myself to these people. Because what good does that do anyone? Like, God's like, well, good thing Morgan went to church because she was scared of what people thought of her. Like, yeah, I'm sure God really appreciates that. It's just like, so that was kind of a big breaking point for me. And that's when I got even more into therapy and reading books, and things, kind of started to shift. So, did you have thoughts or?
Well, I was going to ask you, were you also tired a lot?
I was so tired. And it's weird because I was running around and then just like so tired, but
Yeah.
I couldn't relax. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to
Exactly.
relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get me.
Yeah.
You get me. Twinsies.
Yeah, tiredness, that's a big clue,
Yes, and resentment. Resentment's another big
Oh,
clue.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh, also fantasizing about like a car accident or something,
yeah,
another good clue. Like wishing something bad would happen to you so that you could have a break.
yeah,
That is a sign. You
yeah, it
need to
is.
you need to slow down. And um
I
yeah,
actually
so
said one time that I enjoyed sleep so much, I would like to go to a coma for vacation, you know? Which is a terrible thing to say,
Oh.
but I was, it just seemed like I couldn't get enough rest.
Yeah, no, that's very relatable. Like I said, like I remember at the peak of my stress, yeah, just fantasizing that like I could be hurt just enough to like, that people had to take care of my kids or take care of whatever, just for a little bit so I could have a
Yeah.
break. Like, not good. You're not taking good care of yourself if that's what you're fantasizing about. But I didn't know how to take good care of myself at the time, right?
Did
So,
Did you also do a lot of replaying of conversations? Like, what if I had said this instead of that?
oh, Joe, that is like the bane of my existence. Like, I can't even tell you how many hours of my life I
Yes.
spend torturing myself from just conversations that I've had with people, even if it's someone I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I had a great breakthrough the other day because I was like, I was on the phone, someone called about something, and I was on the phone with them, and I said something really stupid. And I felt so, I had that kind of moment where I'm like, oh, I feel stupid about this, like overthinking about it. And then I was like, I had this like moment of like, but I'm never gonna talk to that person again. So maybe I don't have to worry about this. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Because that's such a big deal for me. Even now, like it's
Yeah.
still something that I struggle with, but it's just so much better. It's so much better. And it was cool the way that I automatically kicked into like, I'm never gonna see them again. I don't think I need to worry about this. Like that
Yeah.
was wild. That was wild. That was so exciting. So it
Yeah.
keeps getting better, it's a journey. But um yeah. Okay, so let me see if I had any other questions about this section. Okay, so how did I feel about my life? I liked my life. I liked the people in my life. I I just felt like there was always something wrong, you know? Even when things were going well, I was just felt like there was something wrong anyway. And how did I feel about myself? I didn't like myself, but I don't think I even realized how much I didn't like myself at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't like myself. I didn't and it was obvious, like, looking back, it was obvious because of how insecure I was and how much I tried to kind of chameleon my friendships, like, tried to kind of be like them instead of
Yeah.
trying to be like me, you know?
Yeah.
And I well, and I say it like I didn't like myself, but I really just didn't know myself. I didn't
Exactly.
know
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what to say around people. One
Yeah.
thing that used to trigger me is like if I would be hanging out with different friend groups like together, because I would kind of act different when I was around different people. So when more than one person would be brought together, I wouldn't know how to act. I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And so, this was all just kind of evidence that I just didn't feel secure in myself. I didn't have really an idea of who I was. So yeah, I think that kind of paints the picture. Did you have anything else to add kind of about how you felt about yourself
Yeah,
and
I was
life?
gonna say I had 2 different lives because I had the life that I had a sitcom of my life that I showed everybody, and then I had this pathetic little existence at home by myself,
Oh
if
man.
that
Yeah.
makes any sense. It's like
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like it's like, "Let's put on a good show for everybody," and then go home and
Yes.
just be quiet in the dark.
Oh,
You
that is
know?
so sad. That is so sad. Makes me want to hug like younger Joe. Yes, I get it. I get it. It's very relatable. Man, I think I love I love this video so far. I just have to say because everything that we're saying resonates with me so deeply and I just know that if I could have heard someone say these things to me years ago, I would have been like, "Oh,
You
like
wouldn't have listened.
oh, yeah, oh,
Because
yeah."
I was told this,
I
in
see what you're
in
saying.
my late 20s, right before my first, partner passed away,
Ah,
um,
I see what you're saying.
and he just got really honest with me about me because he knew me better than anybody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I didn't listen to him at all. I
You weren't
just
ready for
yeah,
it, right?
he died and I ran away, like I always
Yeah.
do, and put on a new
Yeah.
sitcom in a new city.
Ah, yeah, that totally makes sense. You have to be ready,
Yeah,
on some level to accept the criticism or accept the love, to accept them both, right? Because
yeah,
it takes both to make you a well-rounded human being. It takes self-love and self-criticism, but not the
yeah,
harsh kind of self-criticism, like the honest kind of self-criticism,
right,
right? Of
right,
like, I could be doing better with this.
mhm,
And it's not a bad thing that I want to do better with this, or it's not, doesn't have to be this like giant shame fest. Well, it does at first, I think. But anyway. Yeah, okay. So I want to talk about, I was kind of thinking to myself earlier, in what ways does pain and issues from our past hold us back? And actually, before I get into that, I will say that uh trauma. I want to talk about trauma for a second, because we're talking about issues from our past. We had some pretty extreme things happen, and but not everyone has extreme things happen, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has like their mom taking them to an exorcist, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you aren't still hurting from the ways that you didn't feel seen or heard growing up.
Right.
And I heard trauma described once, and I think it was Faith Harper, who's an author. I think she described it this way in one of her books. Um, Trauma is something that happened in your life that didn't make sense to you, that didn't fit kind of within your worldview of how things were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And it traumatized you, right?
Yeah.
And because of that trauma, you can develop
And
PTSD. And not all PTSD is like diagnosable, but it can, when something bad happens to you and you don't cope with it at the time and make peace with it, then it stays in your nervous system.
yeah.
And it still causes your amygdala to fire off these signals of fight and flight and anxiety and freak out and overwhelm,
Yeah.
because you are feeling so afraid and so unsafe because of the past, and all your brain knows is the past. It doesn't know the future. It doesn't have a
Yeah.
concept of the future. And your amygdala, interestingly enough, is okay. So it's a part of your brain, and your amygdala doesn't have a concept of time, right? So it doesn't have a concept of time. So if something happened to you as a kid, if your dad hit you with a newspaper every morning or something,
Yeah.
then every time you see a newspaper, you're gonna freak out. Your amygdala doesn't know that you're not back there right
Yeah.
now, about to get hit with a newspaper, right?
I have only worn belts for the past 4 years of my life.
Oh, right.
I have refused to
Right.
wear belts all of my life.
Oh, that totally makes sense, right? And it's because it because you didn't feel safe, right?
Yeah.
Because it was such a traumatizing event that it's like, I don't want anything to do with that. Or suspenders.
And trauma, just I had this thought a moment ago when you were talking, but something that traumatizes you is not necessarily just a horrible thing.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it could just be that you got your little 3-year-old feelings hurt, but it still traumatized you, because your feelings got hurt, you know?
Right, right. Like I said, it can be anything as a kid that made you feel just not seen or not
Yeah.
heard or not loved or not safe. And it doesn't have to be, yeah, like your dad hit you. It could be like your mom dropped you off at preschool and you felt really scared. Like
Yeah.
those things can cause enough discomfort to dysregulate your nervous system so that it's just on high alert all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just talking about trauma and just realizing that all of us have it on some level, right? Some of us just have it more extreme than others.
Yeah.
And understanding that and just realizing that because all of us have it on some level, all of us can benefit from working through our past and working through our pain and learning good coping techniques and all of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so let's talk about how pain and issues from our past hurt us and hold us back. And we've already given kind of like our personal examples, but I have some kind of other thoughts to share about it. So, one way that our pain from the past holds us back in the present, and still affects us in the present, is that we don't take good care of ourselves.
Yeah,
And
we
this
don't.
shows up like, I'm going to use the example of like working out and eating healthy. There are some people who don't feel good about themselves who do work out and eat healthy, right?
Mhm.
But oftentimes it's from a place of self-hate and not a place of self-love, right?
Right.
Because they feel like instead of I care about myself, I'm going to take good care of myself. It's this I hate the way my body looks, so I'm going to try to change it and I'm going to try to force myself to do these things in order
Yeah.
to prove myself. And it's like, okay, yes, it's good that you're eating healthy and working out, but maybe you're not doing it from the best perspective and that is not good either. But I will say that a lot of people who don't feel good about themselves don't take care of themselves. They
Right.
don't eat well. They don't work out. They don't go to therapy or do kind things for themselves or participate in hobbies or have good relationships. And it's all from this like really sad place of self sabotage because when you have a lot of trauma as a child, you don't feel worthy of good things.
No, you
And when you
don't.
don't feel worthy of good things, you don't go after good things and you don't do things to take good care of yourself because you don't feel like you deserve it, which is like so sad, but that is how it shows up.
A girlfriend of mine pointed out something to me that this was, gosh, like 25 years ago, but she said, stop going for fixer uppers, man.
Yes.
She said, your car's a fixer upper, your house is a fixer upper, your boyfriend's a fixer upper.
Yes,
You
yes, I
you
knew that was
deserve
coming.
something complete, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and it's hard, I think, like for me in particular, I went for the FixerUpper Friends, right? I went for
Mhm.
the and it was so unhealthy, but it was meeting this weird need that I had, this need to feel important and this need. Okay, so my mom struggled a lot emotionally, right? And so then I
Mhm.
learned I got to take care of her, right?
Yeah.
And I learned to wrap my self-worth up in it, right?
Yeah.
So then when I found Fixer Upper Friends, it's like I could indulge in that addiction I had to making other people feel good because they're stressed out and they're freaking out and I can come in and be like, "It's okay, I got you and I can fix all these problems for you," right? And I get to be the hero and I get to feel good about myself.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's not sustainable and it leads to a lot of resentment, right? Because then instead of this bond with this friend growing, I start getting exhausted by other problems
Yeah.
and they feel like enabled to keep needing my help, right? Because
Right.
they believe that they're powerless without me because I keep jumping in and rescuing them. So that's what I'm telling them is that they're powerless without me. And it creates this really unhealthy dynamic where I'm just getting sucked dry because I keep wanting to get that high of them validating me that I'm so important to them and that I'm so helpful to them.
Yeah.
And right. So breaking that cycle is very difficult. But again, everything that we're talking about tonight is gonna be really helpful. And one of the ways that you break that cycle is you have to be okay to sit in your shame a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah, you do.
because you usually when you have a lot of shame, that's when you get those unhealthy coping techniques. That's when you're addicted to things. It might be food, it might be
Mhm.
alcohol, it might be bad friendships, it might be your phone.
Yeah.
If you're addicted to your phone, keep watching. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just kidding. I'm
This is
just
not a
kidding.
part of your addiction.
Yeah. This is actually probably really good. Yeah.
Unless you spend 24 hours a day on YouTube. Yeah.
But if you're watching me, it's fine. You're
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
You're good.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. It's
This
fine.
is
I
fine.
can make an excuse for you. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so when you're addicted to these things, you have to be okay to sit in your pain. And that is just so awful. We don't like sitting in our pain.
Yeah.
But you have to realize that if you can start to sit in your pain and start to realize that you can work through your pain and have some good tools to work through it, then you don't need these addictive behaviors anymore. Then you can actually start to feel good about yourself and you don't
Yeah.
need an unhealthy relationship to validate you. You can learn to like yourself, you can learn to feel good about yourself, and then actually have relationships that build you up instead of wear you down.
Right.
So another thing I had on the list, oh, with that, okay, so if we don't take good care of ourselves, it's funny because, like, okay, we all know what we should do in life,
Yeah.
but we often don't. do it. We often don't feel like we're able to do it. Like, again, eating healthy and working out is a good example.
Yeah.
We all know we should be eating more broccoli. We know
Yeah.
it, right? But how many of us do it? A lot of us don't, and that comes back to the if you have a lot of trauma from your past and it caused you to not feel good about yourself, then you're not going to take care of yourself. And so understanding like that it's not that you're lazy. It might not, you might be lazy. But it might not be that you're lazy, and it might be more that you're hurting
Yeah.
and that your pain is keeping you from living the life that you know you should be living, right? So understanding that can help take the shame out of it and realize like, oh, so I don't need to shame myself for eating this cookie. What I need to do is get some good coping skills, and then I won't need the cookie,
Right.
right? You got to start from within. Another thing I'll say with not taking good care of yourself is that if you have all this trauma and this stuff from your past that makes you feel not good about yourself, then you're going to allow people to treat you badly, right? You're going to end up in
Yeah.
bad relationships. And that's another way of not taking good care of yourself is going to show up, is that you are not going to be able to stand up for yourself, and
Yeah.
you're going to allow people to take advantage of you, to make you feel badly, and that's, obviously we don't want that.
And you can get emotions swapped. Like for instance, my mother liked to have me right under her thumb, you know. And so somewhere along the line, I confused that with love. And so I sought out very dominant men that would try to control every aspect of my life.
Oh my God, I love that connection you just drew. Okay, that's so funny. A similar thing in my upbringing was that I associated worry with love.
Yeah.
So instead of the domineering, like my mom was often like very stressed out, and if I would present something that I was upset about, her way to try to help was to freak out and to act like this thing was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, it made me feel really cared about, because I was like, oh, she's so stressed out about this thing I'm dealing with. Like, she cares about me so much that this is just destroying her, you know?
Yes.
And so then I remember when I got married to Jared, and he's like cool cucumber, right? He's like nothing can disrupt his
Yeah.
zen. And so I'm like, oh, Jared, like this and this happened, and I'm like freaking out, and he's just like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, you're gonna
That's
figure
just
it
not
out. And I
that
was just
big.
like, you don't care about me. You don't care about my problems. That's what I was thinking, because he was just so like nonchalant. And I was like, oh, it took me so long to learn that though. Oh, this isn't worry doesn't equal love, right?
Yeah.
Love is he's here for me. He's listening. Like, he's got my back. If there's something I need, he's going to give it to me.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to get all worked up to prove that he loves me. So I love that you brought that up, because isn't that
Yeah.
interesting how we start to associate these really pathological, unhealthy behaviors that our parents exhibited with love? Isn't that so weird?
Yeah, the guy I was, in a relationship most recently, I remember, things that I know now are red flags were not red flags back then, because like he drove by my house at 9 o'clock and I wasn't at home. Where the hell was I? And instead of seeing that as a red flag, I thought, oh, he's so loving. He's
Yes.
checking up on me.
You're like, "Oh, he cares
He
about
loves
me
me so
so
much,
much." He does, yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that
And that's not
example.
what he was doing at all.
Right, right. He was unhealthily fixating on what you were doing to try to cope with his own pain, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's funny. There's this quote that's like, through rose-covered glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay, let's see what I got next here. So I mentioned self-sabotage a little bit. When you have pain, unresolved pain and issues from your past can cause you to really self-sabotage, right? And what does self-sabotage look like? You hold yourself back from good things. And you
Yeah.
might think, "Oh, I don't do that." you do. And the
Yeah.
reason I say you do is because I didn't think that I did that either. But the more that I healed, the more that I forgave, the more that I made peace with my past, the more I started to actually go after things I actually wanted in life. And then I was like, "Oh my god, like I didn't realize how much I was holding myself back simply because I was trying to like punish myself because I didn't feel like I deserved good things." So, you might think that you don't do it, but it's very subconscious, and so just know that making peace with your past will always help you to put
Yeah.
your best foot forward and to really make the best out of your life you possibly can.
The current man in my life is begging for attention over here. Mr. Leviticus.
Leviticus. Oh
He's
my
just
gosh.
reaching out to me like, "Oh, please, please, please."
Oh, that is so cute. Oh,
It would be
so
lovely to
cute.
have a man who treated me like my cat, but you know what I did to my cat? I had his balls cut off,
Oh
you know?
no! That took me a second. That took me a second. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, hopefully you don't do that to
Yeah.
a human man in your
Right.
life. That's hilarious. Oh, that was a good one. Okay, so um one thing I had on the list of unresolved pain, kind of what that causes in the present, exhausted all the time. And that you
Yes.
actually brought that up already. We don't I didn't realize how much energy I was spending trying to like keep the volcano from exploding just all the time. Because when you have a lot of unresolved pain and trauma and issues, then you are taking energy to suppress that
Yeah.
from just boiling over all the time. And so when you make peace with it, you all of a sudden don't have all this energy that you're trying to spend trying to keep yourself from exploding. Now, again, this is pretty subconscious, so you may not notice it, but if you notice that you feel on edge a lot, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing I had was we fixate and worry about other people's issues too much. And because if you have bad parenting growing up, then you learned to be over responsible for other people, over worried about other people, and you're so fixated on them and trying to resolve their problems that you can't just think about who you are and what you want and what you need. It's just a very unhealthy coping technique, and it's just going to keep you doing more of that. It's going to keep you trying to live other people's lives and fix other people's problems instead of focusing on your own life.
Yeah.
And similarly, we worry about other people's opinions of us too much, and we kind of already talked about that. Just worrying too much about how other people perceive my worth and my integrity, and they think I'm a bad person, so I must be a bad person, worrying too much about that.
Yeah. And that kind of ties in with the putting on a show for the world. You know, you know, wearing a mask is uncomfortable. It wears you out. You know, and so if you're constantly putting on a show wearing this mask, you're going to be beaten down all the time
I
because your
love
psyche knows this isn't real,
I
even though
love
you're
that.
trying to convince everybody else it is. You know.
And you're trying to convince yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to
Oh
convince
yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
that you're happy. I love the mask analogy because I think that that's exactly what a lot of us do is we wear this mask. And you know what's interesting about it is that it's this safety net, because
Hmm.
if the mask gets rejected, it hurts less
Yeah. Yeah.
than you getting rejected,
Yeah.
right? So it is this safety thing of if I wear this mask and the mask gets rejected, well, at least it was the mask and it
Yeah.
wasn't me. And so obviously not healthy, but it makes sense, right? That just comes from a place of serious pain and fear. And yeah, makes sense. Okay, so I want to talk about benefits from healing the past, from making peace with your issues, from coping with your with your emotions. And it doesn't even have to be all this trauma from the past. It can just be your day-to-day emotions, coping with them. They start to build up and you need to learn to cope with them. So benefits, I mean, the opposite of everything we just listed, right? Your self-esteem and your self-worth is going to improve. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be able to have healthier relationships because you'll feel comfortable setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
You're going to take better care of yourself. And it's going to be from a place of love and not a place of hate. So you're going to feel like you're going to be able to work out and eat healthy and participate in hobbies, all because you genuinely have like a good amount of respect and consideration for yourself, and not because you're trying to torture yourself or prove yourself. And then you can participate more in things that you love. I feel like I went from survival mode to creative mode when this
Yeah.
happened, where it was like I went from just trying to get through day to day over to what do I really want out of life? Like, what do I really want? Like I want to dream so big.
Yeah.
And it feels so good. And like it's hard and scary and stuff still sometimes, but it feels so good to feel like I have my shit together well enough that I can actually think about what I want out of life and try to go for it. It's so
Yeah.
exciting, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing. Okay,
And
so oh yeah, go ahead.
one of the things I've learned to do, and I do this every day, but when I come home at the end of the day, whether it's a work day or a Saturday or Sunday, I want to sit and just think about, what did I do right today? What did I do wrong today? Where can I make improvements? Where did I excel? Um, and when I get up in the morning, I want to tell myself, what are you going to do for humankind today? What are you going to do to make life better? You need to have this goal every day that you make something better, either for yourself or someone else.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, I gotta read you this comment. If you never heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who did not cut you.
Oh, wow.
I gotta write that one
Yeah, that
down.
needs to go in the journal.
That is so beautiful. I wrote it down so I can send it to you if you want.
Okay.
I love that so much, and I realize that that's how I've been able to make the most peace with the bad parenting that happened while I was growing up, right? Because I realize on some level, my parents, in making the mistakes that they were making, they weren't being malicious. They
Yeah.
weren't trying to hurt me. They were simply hurting, and they were bleeding all over us, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't know how to cope with their pain. And
Mhm.
because they didn't know how to cope with their pain, their blood was spilling out all over. And so I try to keep that in mind with everybody now, is just
Yeah.
realizing that underneath all the pain and fear, all of us are probably really good, interesting, likable people. But
Yeah.
it's the people that have the most pain and fear out, and anger that is coming out, that are the people that we really don't like, right? And it's not that we don't like them, it's that we don't like all the pain that is spilling out of them.
Yeah.
And or the way that they're dealing with their pain, right? And it's important to understand that, because the more compassion you can have for people in those situations, the more compassion you can have for yourself, because you're imperfect and your pain is spilling out all over people too.
Yeah.
So how do we get from, point A to point B? How do we get from, you have all this stuff from your past, or maybe even just a little bit of stuff from your past
Yeah.
that is still kind of haunting you? How do we get from that over to taking good care of yourself, actually caring about yourself, actually wanting your life to get better?
Yeah.
And the way that you do that is through good coping skills.
Right.
I've said this a million times on my channel, I'll say it a million times more. Good coping skills are like superpowers. If
Yeah.
you have good coping skills, you can get through absolutely anything. I think the number one problem in the world is that people don't have good coping skills. Can you imagine if everyone in the world had good coping skills, how much less war there would be, how much less crime there would be? Just, it would be astronomically different. And so much of the tragedy in life we can't control, right? There's illness and there's death and there's accidents and these things happen. But what we can control is how we cope with our emotions. And when we cope with our emotions, we control how we show up in the world. And if we make it a better place or a worse place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me.
So the way I see it, it's baby steps to get from point A to point B. You just have to take. There was a song from one of those old Christmas cartoons that said, "Just put one foot in front of the other, and soon
Yes.
you'll be walking out the door." You know, just take
Put
some
one foot
steps.
in
You
front
know.
of the other. I think that was from that Santa movie. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. I can't think of what it was from. Anyway,
But you know
so
the song.
yes, and soon you'll be walking out the
Out
door.
the door.
So tell me, what do you think those baby steps looks like, or what did it look like for you?
Well, for me, there was, you self-reflection. You have to spend some time just, dealing with accepting yourself as you are instead of trying to be somebody you're not. Or that's how it was for me, because I had this show that I put on for the world, so I had to get quiet, and I had to get honest, and I had to self-reflect. And one of the things I started doing 2 years ago is I started walking. And I find the walking to be very cathartic, because I see people walking or running on the path that I'm on, and they have their earbuds in and they're jamming. And I think, you're doing it wrong. If you're going to go out in nature and walk, you need to listen to the birdies sing.
Yes.
And you need to think your thoughts and work
Yeah.
through some stuff as you're walking. You see things a little clearer when your blood is pumping. There's more fresh oxygen getting to your brain when you're walking. And so that was a big thing for me, was just starting to walk as a part of my self-reflection.
I love that advice of get quiet and get honest. I
Yeah.
think that the main reason why we don't have good coping skills in society right now is because we can be constantly distracted.
Yeah.
You have a device in your pocket constantly that can distract you from any pain and any
Everything.
sorrow, any problem, any conflict you can be just totally distracted from. And I think that it's easy to think in the moment that it's not going to catch up to you, but it does.
Yeah.
And so I love that advice. Get quiet and get honest. I love that. I love the self-reflection advice also. And okay, so you said accept yourself for who you are. But how do you do that when you don't like who you are? Tell me what your thoughts are. Right?
Oh,
It's a hard jump. Like, well, what if I don't like myself? How am I supposed to like
yeah.
myself if I don't like how am I supposed to accept myself if I don't like myself?
And that's when you have to start making little tweaks, to change. What is it that you don't like about you?
Yes, yes.
Let's just pinpoint. There might be a million things you don't like about Morgan, but let's find this one thing, and we're going to
Yes.
tweak that one thing, and that's the step
Yes.
we're taking today.
Yes. I love that. Okay, I want to build on that because I think there's two things that can happen here with the self-reflection, right? If you don't like yourself,
Mhm.
one, you can change things about yourself, or two, you can change your perspective. And usually you're
Right.
going to need both, right?
Mhm.
Because there might be some things about yourself that you genuinely don't like, and they're not good attributes, and they're things that you can improve on. But sometimes you just have a very unrealistic expectation that you're torturing yourself with. So it's
Yeah.
either a change in something you're doing or it's a change in your perspective. And I'll say that how do you get to that point? Okay, so I don't like myself, right? But how do I learn to like myself? You start with having compassion for yourself.
Mhm.
Compassion is the key here, not an excuse. How do you start to like yourself? Well, I have all these things about me that I don't like. Well, why are you that way? Right?
Yeah.
And if you can understand, like, oh, I have this bad temper, right? And I don't like it. And it's not a good attribute, right? Then you could say, okay, why do I have this bad temper? Well, because my dad had a bad temper or whatever.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you can say, oh, well, I guess it makes sense why I have a bad temper.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to use this as an excuse to be rude, but what I'm going to use it as as is a launching pad to having compassion for myself. Because if I can say, oh, instead of hating myself, instead of shaming myself for my temper, I can say, oh, you know what? I have this temper because I learned it from my dad, and this is a hard thing to unlearn.
And why
And
did X make you so mad?
yes,
Because
yes,
if
getting
you ask that
curious.
question, a lot of times you don't even know.
Yes. Yes. See, that's what
Yeah.
I love. That's what I love about Jordan Peterson. He says that you are so complicated. You have no
Yeah.
idea how complicated you are.
Yeah.
When something triggers you, oftentimes you don't even know why, right? When something
Mhm.
makes you mad, sometimes you don't even know why. And so getting curious is a great first step. Because if you can just say, okay, my kid did this and I got mad, why? What
Yeah.
does this remind me of? What does this make me think of? What does this make me feel? And usually it's going to come back to your childhood, right? Usually
Yeah.
it's going to come back to something that happened to you as a kid. Oh, this is funny. Santa Claus is coming to town. I thought it was a Santa movie. Now
Yeah.
I am vindicated. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
So, um getting curious, because here's the thing. A lot of what is stopping us from healing is how much we shame ourselves for the way that we're feeling. So,
Yeah.
like, I'll be mad at, let's say I get mad at Jared for something, right? Then my next knee jerk reaction is to then shame myself for getting mad.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, yeah, you know what? I'm mad about this and this is why I'm mad. And that's okay. It's okay. I'm allowed to be mad.
Yeah.
Even if he's right, I'm still allowed to be mad, right? And so the problem is we get hung up in this, like, all these layers of emotion, right? Because I'm like, I'm mad, and now I'm ashamed that I'm
Yeah.
mad, and then I'm mad at myself for being mad, and it's just like it just turns into a whole mess,
And
right?
now I'm sad because I'm ashamed, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And
And
it just
so,
keeps going and going.
and I think the way you, again, combat all of that is you try to just have compassion for yourself, and you try to tell yourself as much as you can, it makes sense that I feel this way, or it makes
Yeah.
sense that I acted this way. And again, you don't use it as an excuse. You don't say, yeah, I yell at my kids because my mom yelled at me. You say, you know what? I have a hard time not yelling at my kids because my mom yelled at me, but I am choosing to work on this because I know I can overcome this. And even though this is a difficult thing to learn and to change, I want to change it because I want to have a good relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
I mentioned that I tend to be quick to temper, and I've learned to just stop myself when I feel that temper building in me. I've learned to just stop myself and say, "Why is this so freaking important to me?"
Yes.
I
And
mean,
is this as big of a deal as I think it is,
as I'm
right?
making of it, yeah, yeah. Because
Oh,
usually
I
it's
love that.
nothing, you know.
Right, right, in retrospect, yeah, and also, like, I sometimes so sometimes you can deal with stress by really zooming in on something, and sometimes you can deal with it by really zooming out, and so
Yeah,
sometimes when I'm, really upset about something, like, the other day I was at, the Grease Monkey, and I was gonna get an oil change, and they were like, "Yeah, we can have it done by this time," or whatever, and they did not have it done by that time, and I was super frustrated,
yeah,
and then it's like you zoom out, and then you're just like, I'm gonna be dead one day, and I'm probably not gonna give a shit that the car didn't get an oil change like when I wanted it to. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so, you know, having the zoom in, zoom out can be really helpful. So another way you can heal your trauma, cope with your emotions, is you can journal. Jordan
Mhm.
Peterson, really famous, very smart psychologist, says that you can those things that haunt you, those things that come to your mind when you're trying to fall asleep and you get all mad because you're like, I don't want to think about this thing. Right.
Yes.
Voluntarily think about them. Bring them to your mind voluntarily and journal them out in very specific detail. Journal out why that thing bothered you so much. Journal
Yes.
out what you would do differently, how you would handle the situation differently. And if you can do that, and I do that still with things as they come up and as I remember more things from my past, and what happens is I'm telling my brain, okay, it's safe to process all the emotions around this and
Yeah.
to feel sad or angry that this thing happened so I can let it go. And then also, I'm setting a new foundation where I feel safer moving forward because I say to myself, if this thing ever happens again, here's how I would handle it. Because in
Yeah.
that journaling, I'm saying, well, what I could have done was this. And if this ever happens again, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm setting this safer foundation for myself where I trust myself moving forward that I can handle these things and that I can handle
Mhm.
them well so that I don't feel so afraid or freaked out when something goes wrong because I'm like, oh, I know how to handle this now. So
Yeah.
that is really helpful. So journaling things out very thoroughly, or even just writing how something made you feel, very helpful.
And if you'll spend just 10 minutes writing that out, you can go to sleep now instead of dwelling on it till 3 a.m. going, if I fall asleep right now, I'll get 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, Joe, you make me feel so human. Absolutely. Another favorite way of journaling for me that I try to do every week is I will try to just bullet out all the things that are taking up space in my mind. So I'm like, okay, I'm worried about Lucas and this thing. I'm worried about this work thing. I'm worried about getting this done or this or this or this upset me. And I just bullet it out very quickly, just like this is worrying me, this and this and this and this. And and then I go back through the list and I just say, with every bullet, I look at it and I just say, it makes sense that I feel this way. Makes sense that I
Yeah.
feel this way. Makes sense that I feel this way. It makes sense that I feel this way. And it feels good on both ends. On the one end, I'm just getting it out on paper. I'm getting it out of my head and onto paper.
Mhm.
And on the other sense, I'm validating my emotions. And when
Mhm.
you validate them, you're coping with them, you're allowing them to release instead of just keeping them locked up. So I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excuse me. So other ways you can cope, meditation, therapy, obviously, and especially if you have a lot of stuff, you a lot of difficult things from your past, go to therapy and go
Yeah.
to a good therapist. It's hard to know sometimes if you're going to a good therapist, but I will say that in order to know if it's a good therapist or not, you can certainly ask yourself if you feel like you are improving as a person, if you're
Quit
becoming
it
more
now.
confident and more if you're becoming more confident and more feeling good about yourself, you know, hopefully that is a good therapist. Um
Sorry, I had bad children fighting.
I figured. Okay, and then how you heal and cope with your trauma, move forward, getting to know yourself. And you already
Yeah,
mentioned earlier that being honest with yourself is a big part of that, right? Because
absolutely.
you can't move forward if you don't know where you're at. If you don't know where you're at and you don't know where you're going, like you have to have both those things. You have to know where you're at right now and you have to know where the destination is. And the destination can be simple. It can be I want less anxiety and depression, right? It can
Yeah.
be I want to be less worried about what people think of me. It can be simple. It doesn't have to be like I want to go write a book and I want to have a famous YouTube channel like Morgan. Just kidding. And okay, so and we already talked about this a little bit, but kind of when you get triggered, just asking yourself, why is this triggering me? Just get
Yeah.
curious and try to understand yourself. And just getting to know yourself. What do you like to do? What kind of people do you like to be around? Why do you like doing those things? Why do you like those kind of people? And the more you can get to know yourself and understand yourself, the more you can actually start to like yourself and want to take good care of yourself and want to move on from the kind of the things that are torturing you from your past.
Yeah.
um Learn to love and care about yourself. We already talked about this. Have compassion for yourself. One thing that has just made a huge difference for me is the more I take good care of myself, the more I feel like I am invincible in a way,
Oh yeah.
because I'm willing to take more risks and do things that are scary because I know that I'm going to pick myself back up again. I'm willing to put myself out there and make new friends and make YouTube videos
Mm,
and do all these things that are kind of scary. I'm willing to do those things because I know that if something happens and I have a hard time, I'm going to take very good care of myself and
yeah.
get myself back on my feet. And again, it's not an overnight change, right? But that's ideally you want to get to that point.
Yeah. My battery is about to die on this laptop, so you might need to go full screen on yourself and let me go grab a cable
Yeah,
if
take
we're
your
going to go
time.
any further.
Take your time. Take your time. So I let's see here if I missed anything. One of my favorite coping techniques probably has been cognitive behavioral therapy. And if you don't know what that is, it's essentially this method of learning to rationalize through your thoughts instead of getting too caught up in really negative ways of thinking. So you think, like, if you have a thought like, "Oh, I'm such a bad mom," and then you journal evidence of why you think you're a bad mom, and then you journal evidence of why you think you might actually be a good mom, and you start to compare and to just get very real with yourself about what your expectations are and how realistic or unrealistic those expectations really are. And then even just validating yourself about the good that you are doing and not just fixating on the bad. Another thing that has really helped me in conjunction with that has been to think about to actually compliment myself. And you kind of brought this up earlier, to actually look at my day and to say, Morgan, you did a good job with ABC and here's why. And to be
Yeah.
very specific. And this is really hard to do, but you can start small and be like, Morgan, you got the kids to bed and you didn't you didn't scream at them tonight. Like, it can be
Yeah.
small, like, because you got to start small. When you don't feel good about yourself, complimenting yourself is so hard, but it's a great first step. Shout out to Sarah. Thank you for the money, and
Hey,
thanks for
Sarah.
joining us and for letting me know that I was right about the Santa Claus movie. Um, so complimenting yourself, super hard, but start as small as you can. And and this can go for body issues too. If you
Yeah.
can try to start complimenting things about your body that you like, it can really start to shift things. Because odds are, if you don't like yourself, it's less because you're ugly and a jerk, and more because you have a very unrealistic view of yourself and very
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations. So if you can sit down and say, actually, I really like the color of my eyes,
Yeah.
I think they're a pretty color or something. Like, if you can genuinely compliment yourself, that's a really cool thing. So those have been some of my favorite ways of kind of making peace with the past.
And BT Dubs, we love Morgan's new hair.
Well, I'm glad a gay man says my hair looks good, because for some reason that makes me think you're more reliable. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I kind of had this like moment where I really wanted to reinvent myself because I was really struggling and I was feeling so ashamed, just kind of having a lot of awareness brought to my attention of things that I was doing wrong in my relationships and with my kids. And it was so hard for me. And I really wanted to forgive myself and I wanted to reinvent myself. And that's when I actually switched to cutting my hair really short. And it was really helpful. Like it mentally was helpful because when I was looking in the mirror, it was a new person. And it was
Yeah.
kind of this symbolic of you can be a new person. You can reinvent yourself. Like any day, you can start any day and you can do it. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so that's kind of some tips on how you can work through your trauma, how you can make peace with it. It's not easy, right? But it's
No.
so worthwhile. And I want us to quickly, before we open up to calls, and we are going to take live calls if anyone wants to jump on, comment anything, ask any questions. You don't have to turn your video on if you don't want to, but we'll be heading in that direction in a second if you want to get ready for that. What does your life look like now? So Joe, tell me, what does your life look like now compared to kind of the picture you painted before and how you feel about yourself now, and kind of let us know like what improvements have you seen as a result of making peace with your past?
Well, as I started crawling out from under all of this emotional, um, I my future is bright now.
Oh,
You know, I see the world a little bit differently. I I just I have a plan. For my future and for my now. It's not all about the future, but I'm good with where I'm at right now. I think I'm in a pretty darn good place. I've dealt with some crap, and
yeah.
I'm okay. You know,
Oh man. That's cool. That's cool hearing you say that. So tell
and
me how. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
and when I say crawling out from all of this emotional stuff, when you were talking about getting honest with yourself, um, I mean, I did. I brought myself into just this. It was like a deep pit of tar, just this.
Yeah.
I couldn't find one good thing about me. I got all the way to
Yes.
that point. And then
Yes.
as you start digging out and you see just a little bit of light, it's like, okay, I've made it this far. you know,
Yes.
I can see just a little bit of light. Now let's work on something. And
I
what you need to work with just comes to you. It's not that hard if you'll just listen to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll know what to work on.
Well, and it'll be the things that are that are getting triggered that
Yeah.
you're getting upsetted by. It's like that's what you need to work on. Yep,
Yeah.
that's it. There it
Yeah.
is.
Why does
Yeah, it's
this make me mad? You know?
yeah, why does this make me mad? Why does this make me sad? Why does this make me uncomfortable? Like,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. I love it. I love how you painted that picture of like just there might not even be one thing you feel like you like about yourself because that's
Yeah.
where a lot of people are. And I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like oh yeah, it's so hard to break out of that. So I love how you just so effectively painted that picture. So people could feel less alone if they feel like
Yeah.
that's where they're at with things.
And if
For
nothing else, you're really good at hating yourself. You know?
yeah, yeah, there
and
you
if
go.
and if for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, then if you can hate yourself, you can love yourself. Let's try
There you
try
go.
to
There
turn that.
you
I
go.
love that I've torn myself down to the bottom. Now let's start building myself back up.
I
You
see. I
know.
see. Okay, yeah, I like that. So tell me how do you feel about yourself now compared to how you felt about yourself kind of before you tried to work through a lot of these things?
Um, I'm cool with myself. Like, I'm a big fat old man, and I'm cool with that. So long as I feel good, I'm okay. That's part of why I started walking. I just want to feel good.
Oh,
It
I
doesn't
love
matter
that.
what I look like. You know,
Oh,
I'm not
I
I'm
love
not here to
that.
impress anybody, you know.
I love that so much because I think that it's so easy to want to lose weight so that you can look good, right?
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that that's wrong to want that, but I do love that I want to lose weight so I can feel good. That's
yeah.
such a healthier goal, and it's not one that's quite as stressful or filled with as much pressure, you know.
After
Um
I'd been walking, I started walking a mile at lunch um, about 2 years ago. And after I had done it for a while, I realized how much better I felt. And I decided it really doesn't matter. I can still be 300 pounds
mhm.
so long as I can do everything I want to do. Who cares? You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
I'm more buoyant, you know?
That is true. That is true. Yeah, no, I really do love that perspective of what matters more is that you're enjoying life and able to do the things you want to do. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay,
And I've,
so oh,
and
go
I've
ahead.
recently turned that into 2 miles at lunch.
Whoa,
Yeah.
dude. Well, and you've lost a lot of weight since our last video together. I bet people will notice because yeah, you look a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
much
down about 30
slimmer.
pounds since our last
Yeah,
6 months ago. Yeah.
congratulations. Oh, that's so awesome. That's huge. That's such a big deal. Like just goes to show you really are taking very good care of yourself, which is so awesome.
And I don't weigh myself. You know, when I go to the doctor, she weighs me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you've lost 23 pounds," or "Oh my gosh, you've lost another 9 pounds." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know, it
That
just
I
doesn't
love
really
that.
matter, you know.
I think especially for women, there's a lot of women where weight loss has been such a self-worth trigger for them that it's so difficult for them to deal with uh trying to lose weight because of how stressed they get about what the scale is going to say.
Yeah.
And so I love that advice of don't weigh yourself more than once a week or even once a month because
Yeah.
if you're trying to be active and you're trying to eat healthy, it's going to come off, and you don't need to force it and make it fast. And that's the thing is a lot of us with trauma in our background, we feel like everything is so urgent. And
Yeah.
that's how we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot because we're like, I got to lose weight right now. And then we try to
Yeah.
hit it so hard and we burn ourselves out in 2 weeks and then we stop. And then it's like, okay, no, it'd be better to lose a pound a month than to
Yeah.
burn yourself out in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I think that's really good advice. Certainly don't weigh yourself every day because your body
No.
fluctuates too much and that just causes
And
so
and I
much
and I
stress.
literally I only get weighed at the doctor. I do not have a scale in my home,
Yeah, that's
you
good. That's
know.
good. I
So
think for a lot of people that's healthy.
I can tell you this, the jeans I bought most recently already need to be replaced. So
Yay!
decided we're just going to wear baggy jeans for a few months because I'm not buying a whole new wardrobe every couple of months.
I get it. I get it. Oh man. So I want to just talk a little bit about, kind of how I feel like my life is different now, and then we'll take the calls. And
Okay.
I will, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and post the link in
Okay.
the thing. So if
I
you
wanted to
are
I wanted to bring up one thing I looked up today
oh,
because
sure,
because
please.
we're talking about depression and trauma and such. And
And before you do, I'm just gonna
yeah,
warn people that when they click on this link, what it will do is it will put them in a waiting room, and, so you'll be able to see us, but you won't be talking and stuff till we add you, so you can just hang out in there, and, you don't have to show your camera if you don't want to. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you learned.
so they did a study in Great Britain about 10 years ago with 35,000 people, and
Whoa.
half of them they prescribed the normal antidepressants, Prozac, Zoloft, etc. And with the other half, they prescribed a placebo, a sugar pill, but they also prescribed walking
Whoa.
and purposeful walking.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't matter if you get 8,000 steps in at work, you still need to get another 2,000 in exercise. you know.
Okay.
And so
Right.
purposeful walking outdoors, it was very,
I
specific,
see.
not,
Right.
no treadmills, go walk around the block, whatever. But
Yes,
at the end
yes.
of the study, 100% of the people that were walking outperformed all the people that were taking the real antidepressants.
Oh my god, doesn't that blow your mind?
Yeah.
Doesn't that kinda make you, like, sick to your stomach to realize, like, how many people are medicated when really all they
Yeah.
need is a walk?
Yeah.
And that's not to I'm not trying to diss on anyone that, like, anxiety and depression are real serious issues, and it's not,
Yeah.
like, something you can pretend away, but certainly, there's a lot to be said about how inactive our culture is and how
Yeah.
much mental illness there is, right? I imagine that that is
And
very tied.
every walk you take, a few more bullet points I picked up. Every walk you take boosts your immune system for the next 24 hours.
Oh, cool.
Walking daily decreases your chances of developing over 40 different diseases.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
And walking every day decreases your chances of developing dementia in your old age by 13%.
That's massive. Oh
Yeah,
man, that's
just taking a walk
huge.
every day.
Yeah,
And
which
like I
is
say, do it right. Listen to nature. Look at the sunshine.
that's
Don't,
so
don't just
cool.
zone out and go. You know.
Yes, that is so cool. I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So then I'll just say that so where am I at now? I felt like my life was just kind of a mess before and I was just spinning in trying to hide from all my pain, right?
Yeah.
And so now I feel like I'm very organized with things. Like I have certain days of the week where I'm cleaning, certain days I'm cooking. And so at the end of the day, things are looking really good and there's food in the fridge and I'm feeling much less stressed. I feel more confident, I feel less stressed, I
Yeah.
feel more compassionate with everybody, I feel more forgiving. And
Yeah.
I just have this sense of like I said, I feel like a little bit invincible. Like I could try anything. Like I can dream as big as I want because
Yeah.
why not? Like
Yeah.
why not? And so I've been pursuing a lot of things that I love. Like I've been pursuing, my YouTube, I've been pursuing music, I've been pursuing pickleball, and I have time for all these things because I have done I've put my priorities in the proper order, right?
Yeah.
Taking good care of my mental health is where it started, and then I was able to kind of organize my life onto a schedule. And then I was able to have all this free time and energy to actually work toward things I wanted instead of just like trying to keep our house afloat.
Yeah.
And so I love where I'm at right now. I love the direction that I'm heading. And that direction is just getting to know myself more,
Mhm.
learning to love myself and take care of myself even deeper, and and going after what I want in life and trying to learn to be more patient with myself because
Yeah.
even though I've come really far, I still have a ways to go as far
Cuddle.
as learning to
Yeah.
be more patient with my emotions and more patient with my imperfections. And but I love that my trajectory is well aimed right now, and
Yeah.
I'm so much more confident, and I just feel very fulfilled, because I've got good friends and I've got an awesome family and I've got healthy food and I'm working out and I'm doing
Yeah.
YouTube and I'm doing these hobbies that fulfill me while also taking very good care of my mental health. And so it all just feels so good, and it feels like I'm in control instead of like my emotions controlling me, which is
Yeah.
really cool, which is really
And
cool. So,
and your trajectory
yeah.
doesn't have to be straight up and down. Your trajectory can just be a slight incline,
Yes.
and
Yes.
just
That it will oh, what's the word? Compound interest, right? If you just
yeah.
make your life 1% better every day, that
Yeah.
compound interest is going to skyrocket. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you'll be a
that's
whole new
so
person
cool.
in 100 days. You'll be 100% different, you know?
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, we have a caller.
Oh,
Let's
yay.
add here. Okay. Hey Sarah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, Sarah.
What's up?
Hello. Um, I just felt like I should call, and I just really felt like this. I just needed to hear this because there's just so much of these things that you guys have been talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can add like just a little bit at a time to my life to try to make improvements.
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, it's where we know what we need to do, and it's like a whole nother thing to do them.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of walks. That sounds, because that's easy, you know.
Yes.
It doesn't require stuff, and so you just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have 3 kids, so I do have to time it, either
Yeah.
drag them all with me or
Yeah.
or when I have somebody to watch them. But I'm like, okay, just baby steps.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I heard
just do one good thing today,
right.
for Sarah,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
golden.
And then be proud of yourself for
Right.
doing it, right?
Yes.
I heard a
Yeah.
quote. I don't even, I think it was somebody quoting somebody else, but it was like, we overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that has just been like ringing true to me, where I'm like, yeah, we're like the whole thing where you start too fast and you burn out.
That's a great quote.
And so I've been trying to like step it back and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna try to make this goal happen in 10 years, not 1 year.
Yes, because better than no goals, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we usually end up, because we burn out and then we have no goals.
Yeah. And so I recently ran my first 5K.
Yay, Sarah! You go.
And what I did was I found like a couch to 5K thing. And so it started out slow. Like it was like 1 minute run, 1 minute walk times 10. That was the first one. And it just slowly built. And I didn't run the whole 5K. I did run, and then I'd walk a little and run. But that was my goal, was just to like do it.
Yes.
And I'm hoping to get to the point where I could do one running the whole time. Like that's my next goal. So just that mind frame of not have to be in a hurry. Like as long as I'm working towards that goal. So
I love that. I love that you were proud of yourself for just doing it, right? Because if you were hard on yourself for not running the whole time, you probably never would have tried another 5K, right? So the fact that you were just proud of yourself for trying is so good.
And nobody there looked at you like you didn't belong there either, did they?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, so it's funny. What's really funny is, so there wasn't a big turnout because of rain. There was a threat of rain, but so in my age and gender category, I got second place.
Wow.
Whoa!
Good for you.
Look at that.
That is awesome.
So that was, I was like, oh, I mean, there was 3 of us. So like,
right.
I beat
But
out
you
like a
didn't
ton of
finish
people.
last.
Yeah. And so it was just, that was just exciting. And my husband did it with me, and he also finished second in his age and gender. So we were just both like, oh, our first 5K, and we get second place.
All right.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that, Sarah. I love that so much. Yeah, this mindset shift for me has been so helpful. Like for example, because I want to share this with you because it's relevant. I really wanted to be playing piano every day. And so Atomic Habits, I think it's Atomic Habits, says you make it so easy that you can do it 98% of the time. And so I was like, how much piano could I play every day 98% of the time? And I was like, 5 minutes. I could do that. So then that's literally what I started with, was just I made sure that I played for 5 minutes. And then oftentimes I would sit down and I'd be like, okay, I only need to play 5 minutes. But if I want to play more, I'll play more. And oftentimes I would. And the other day I played for an hour. But that was bonus points, right? Now my bar is like 10 minutes, right? My bar, I try to like, okay, I need to get 10 minutes in. Anything else is bonus. And it's so cool though to watch. I'm so much more willing to just sit at the piano when I know I only have to sit there for 10 minutes. So yeah, I love that. Starting small is so powerful. It's just like you could do anything. You can accomplish anything if you just make it small enough, right? It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Well, because usually, like, that's the thing I have with like cleaning. Like, once I start, I just go. But to get myself to start, I usually have to be like, I'm just going to do the dishes. And then once I do the dishes, usually I'm like, okay, now I'm going to sweep the floor. And it just adds. But,
Yes.
but
That
in order to,
momentum.
Sarah,
get
I'm
me
on
started.
Settlers Park Drive in Louisiana. I am the worst housekeeper. I've got to figure out a way to get beyond that. I need to get into it somehow because it's just a chore, you know.
Oh man, seriously, you know, the game changer for me was I wrote down, I was like, in a week, what's the most important chores? Cooking, cleaning the bathroom, the floors, like, and just kind of picking up. And I like wrote it down. I was like, and laundry. And I was like, okay, on Thursdays, I'm gonna do laundry. I'm not gonna go to bed until I do laundry. On Mondays, I'm gonna cook, and I'm just gonna cook in bulk for the whole week, you know. And
Yeah.
once I did that, oh, it helps so much. So I just would try to hold myself, and I just tried to make it the bare minimum chores, right? Because it's just there's so much that could be done. You can wash the windows and wipe down the doors and clean
Oh
the
my goodness.
baseboards. And it's like
It's
you
never
could be
ending.
cleaning forever, and with 3 kids, oh hell no! Like, so yeah, that for me was a game changer. And then it actually gave my brain a stopping point at the end of the day where I was like, okay, today was laundry, so the laundry's put away, so I'm done, you know. And it was like, whoa, I'm done. And then I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But then I was like, oh, well, this is where the hobbies can come back in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's what I need to work on is hobbies. So much
It's
to work on.
Yes, yeah. Hey, walking's a great start. And also, I mean,
is.
keeping your 3 kids alive, that
Right?
that is a lot.
That is.
Yeah.
Oh man, good to hear from you, Sarah. Any other closing thoughts you guys have? We don't have any other calls, so any other closing thoughts, and we'll wrap this up.
I don't think so, but it was great chatting with you guys. Thanks for
Nice to
taking my
meet you,
call.
Sarah.
Yeah, have a good night, Sarah.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This was so fun. I loved this video so much. Joe, you better get used to coming on the channel because I think all of my favorite videos are ones where I'm chatting with you. So
Aw, you're so sweet.
I love chatting with you. I think it helps me so much to when we chat, it's like we can really humanize the experience and really get people to see what they're feeling and thinking is like normal and how they can work through that. And I love you helping me paint that picture for people
Aw.
and painting that beautiful pathway to like your life can be better. You can do it. You can change it. If Joe who was exercised and the gay demons out of him and and it didn't work and he is learning to thrive and love himself and love his life, then you can do it too. That's how I feel.
I don't know if I told you or not, but I stole your brother's idea.
Well,
And
my brother was the one that stole my idea.
oh, it was your idea. Okay.
And then you stole it and everyone's stealing it and it's awesome.
Well,
It's
this is
awesome.
this is what got the second mile in.
Oh my
Because it
gosh.
feels so foreign on this hand because I always wore it on this hand when Vance was alive. And I got around that first mile and I felt this ring and I was like, I'm in this for Joe, man. And I just turned around and did that mile in the opposite direction, you know?
Oh, Joe, I love that. Okay, so backstory with the ring was when I was having a really hard time in my marriage a couple years ago, I was like, I need to be married to me first. And that's
Yeah.
where I bought myself this ring and I engraved in it, I am here for you, because I realized like I have to be okay on my own in case things don't work out, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like we could get divorced or he could die. Who knows? Like things can happen, you know? And so having that foundation of like, I need to take good care of me for me was such a beautiful thing. Joe, I love that I'm going to do another mile for Joe.
And this was always, I mean, for the past like 30 years, this has always been a sadness thing when I would find this,
Really?
you know, because it brought up, you know, because he died horribly. He had spinal cancer, and it was a terrible thing. From diagnosis to death was like 6 weeks and 4 days.
And that was your husband?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
we didn't have marriage in the 90s, but yeah, he was my husband.
Yeah.
And but you know, I would come across this ring now and again, and I'd get a little maudlin about it, you know.
Yeah.
But now that I've put it on this hand and married me, that's exactly what he would want for me.
Oh,
You know, he wouldn't want me to see this and say, "Ooh." He'd want me to see this and say, "I'm doing this for Joe." You know?
Yes! Oh my God, I love that so much. Okay, so it was my birthday last week, and I bought myself a gift.
Yeah.
I engraved in this necklace, on one side it has my name on it, on the other side it says, "Know thyself."
Yeah.
And I love that message. It's my favorite message. I mean, the phrase "know thyself" is so old that we don't even know where it came from exactly. It's over 2,000 years old. And I always want to make sure that I am able to show up for me instead of expecting other people to do it and then resenting them, right? And yeah, you can expect certain things out of your relationships, right? But you need to be the one that knows what you want and what you need and how to ask for those things. And so I am just like locked in on like taking good care of myself because I want to, because I am the only person that I have that will always be here. You know, I'm the only one that will always be here for me. I was doing this exercise the other day, one of Jordan Peterson's vision. He was on the Daily Wire. He had this thing about vision, creative vision for your life. It was so beautiful. And he talked about how you have to have a vision for your life that can withstand catastrophe. And I was like, what vision can I stand on that would be there if everyone I knew died or something tragic happened? And I was like, I would always have my relationship with myself. I would always have that. I would always have, I mean, it's a whole world inside of each of us of things to explore and things to understand and things to learn and grow. There's so much to that. And I was thinking about Alexander Solzhenitsyn, you know, who was arrested and he was innocent, put in these, you know, basically torture camps. And he wrote the Gulag Archipelago about that. And he talked about how he was grateful for the experience. And I was just like, what the hell? And it's because it got him to think about him and his life and what life meant, and it got him thinking all these beautiful things, and he made the best of it. And so I just think to myself, if I went to prison wrongfully, which I hope never happens, I would still have my relationship with myself. If all my family members died, I'd still have my relationship with myself. And that is a vision I can stand on. That is something that can withstand catastrophe, is trying to have this continual exploration from within, and to enjoy that and to get to reap the benefits of that. So, mic drop. Well, thank you guys all for watching. I'll read this last comment where Jared, that's my husband, said, "Love you, Joe. It's always good to hear more of your story."
Aww.
Yeah, Joe, you are a bottomless pit of fascination.
Well, thank you for that, I think.
You're welcome, I think.
I'm also a plethora of useless information.
I guess we all are. It's some, yeah. I guess we all are. You know,
one of my best friends and I just took a trip to West Texas and back, and I was just random thoughts had come into my head. I'd be like, you know what those reflector things down the middle of the road are called? And she's like, no, nobody knows what that. I said, they're called bots dots. They were developed by a man whose last name was Bots, B-O-T-Z. You know,
Yep, that is pretty
first marketed as
useless.
bots dots. You know,
Oh, that's funny. All right, well.
and that was the phrase she used. She's like, you are just a plethora of useless information. Who would need to know that? You know.
Well, luckily.
Well, Joe needs to know that. That's why I looked it up.
Luckily, you're also a plethora of very helpful information. So
Yes.
it just, you know, there's both. Lots of useless, lots of useful. We just, you know, and we're just here to sift out the good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you to everyone who watched this. And yeah, we'll see you guys around.
Good night.
Peace.